Ever wonder how non-Australian citizens or permanent residents can live and work in Australia? Well, there's a specific visa that makes this possible, and it's known as the Temporary Skilled Shortage 482 visa. This visa is a golden ticket that enables Australian businesses to sponsor workers from overseas in eligible occupations. It's a significant pathway for those seeking to explore the vast employment opportunities that Australia has to offer. But it's not just about packing your bags and hopping on the next flight to Sydney or Melbourne. There's a process, a set of steps that both the sponsoring company and the potential employee need to follow. This process is intricate, and understanding it can be the difference between a smooth transition to a new job in Australia or a pile of confusing paperwork and disappointment. So it's essential to understand the 482 visa process, whether you're an employer or a potential employee. Now, let's delve into the steps of obtaining the 482 visa. Securing this visa may seem like a daunting task, but we can break it down into manageable steps, starting with the need for sponsorship from an eligible Australian company. The first crucial step in the 482 visa process is finding a company willing to sponsor you. This company must be an eligible sponsor, meaning it's a legally operating business in Australia. Your potential employer plays a significant role in this process, as they need to apply for what's known as standard business sponsorship. This doesn't involve you directly. It's entirely up to the company and the Australian Department of Home Affairs. In their application, the company must provide a variety of supporting documents to prove they're actively operating within Australia. These documents might include lease agreements, bank statements, business activity statements, tax returns, financial reports, and company registration documents. All these documents serve as evidence that the company is lawfully operating and capable of supporting a sponsored employee. The process can be relatively straightforward, given all the required documents are correct and up to date. The approval period varies, but expected to take anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months at most. Once approved, the company will hold a standard business sponsorship license, which lasts for 5 years. The company must renew this license every 5 years to continue sponsoring employees. With the company's sponsorship secure, they can then nominate you for a specific occupation under the 482 visa. It's important to note that the job you're being sponsored for must be on the eligible occupation list. The occupation also needs to fit within the company's scope of business. For instance, a restaurant cannot sponsor a carpenter, but a chef or a restaurant manager would be a fitting choice. Remember, the first step is securing sponsorship from an eligible Australian business. Once that's in place, you're well on your way to living and working in Australia under the 482 visa. So you've secured sponsorship. What's next? Well, let's dive right into the details. Now that you have an employer willing to sponsor you, it's crucial to ensure that your occupation fits the bill. It's not enough to just have a job offer. The position must be on the approved occupation list for the Temporary Skilled Shortage 482 visa. This list isn't a secret document hidden away in a vault somewhere. It's readily available and constantly updated. It includes a range of occupations, from chefs to software engineers and everything in between. But remember, just because an occupation is on the list, it doesn't mean it's an automatic green light. The occupation also needs to fit within the scope of the business. Think about it this way. A restaurant can't sponsor a carpenter, right? It wouldn't make sense. The purpose of the nomination process is to ensure there's a genuine need for your skills within the business. So, if a restaurant is sponsoring a chef, or a digital marketing agency is sponsoring a marketing specialist, then it's all systems go. But if the same restaurant tried to sponsor a civil engineer, well, that's a different story. The nomination process is designed to ensure that the Australian workforce remains balanced, and that businesses are not just sponsoring workers for the sake of it. Now, this doesn't mean that you're out of luck if your occupation isn't on the list. It simply means that the business will need to demonstrate why they need your specific skills and how this will benefit their business and ultimately the Australian economy. Remember, this visa is all about addressing skill shortages in Australia. It's about filling gaps in the workforce, not creating them. This is why the business must show that they have a genuine need for your position. So to recap, your occupation must be on the approved list and fit within the scope of the business. It's not just about finding a sponsor, it's about finding the right sponsor for the right occupation in the right business. Your occupation must be on the approved list and fit within the scope of the business. Now, let's talk about money. When it comes to your salary as a sponsored worker under the 482 visa, there are important considerations both you and your sponsoring company must take into account. Firstly, your sponsoring company is required to pay you at the market salary rate for your occupation. This means that they must offer you a salary that is equivalent to what an Australian in the same position would earn. This is a crucial requirement designed to protect migrant workers from being exploited. Imagine you're a chef working in a restaurant in Sydney. Your salary should be in line with what other chefs in similar establishments in Sydney are earning. Or maybe you're a software engineer in an IT firm in Melbourne. Again, your salary should reflect the going rate for software engineers in Melbourne's IT sector. But that's not all. Another important factor is the comparison of your salary with that of any Australians working in the same position within your company. If there's an Australian colleague doing the same job as you, your salary should not be less than theirs. This is a further measure to ensure fairness and prevent exploitation. Now, you might be wondering, is there a minimum salary that must be met? The answer is yes. The minimum salary rate for a sponsored worker under the 482 visa is $70,000 per annum. This is the absolute minimum your employer can pay you, regardless of the market rate for your occupation. However, always remember that the market salary rate for your job may well be higher than the minimum salary rate. For instance, the starting rate for a software engineer in Sydney might be around $100,000. So while the minimum salary rate is a good safety net, it's the market rate that often dictates what you should actually be earning. So, the bottom line is, your salary should be fair, reflecting both the market rate and the minimum salary rate.